The lobby of the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, on vibrant Michigan Avenue, was a spectacle of elegance. Crystal chandeliers cast golden reflections on polished marble, and the soft murmur of guests' conversations echoed like a soundtrack of sophistication. Angela Harper, a 42-year-old black woman, crossed the space with resolute steps, the sound of her high heels ringing with precision. Her presence was commanding yet understated, the kind of confidence that didn't need to shout to be noticed. She carried a black leather handbag and a gaze that seemed to see beyond appearances. At the check-in counter, Angela slid her Centurion black card across the cold granite, its metallic sheen contrasting with the dark wood of the desk. It was a symbol of financial power possessed by few in the world, reserved for an elite that moved fortunes. But the receptionist, Nathan Brooks, a young man with fair skin and a rehearsed smile, took the card and examined it with a look dripping with suspicion. "Let's hope this card isn't maxed out," he said, his voice low but clear enough for Angela to hear. Another employee nearby stifled a laugh, pretending to shuffle papers on the counter. The air grew thick, charged with a tension that seemed to pulse in the silence that followed. Angela didn't flinch. Her lips curved into a nearly imperceptible smile, but her eyes gleamed with a sharp calm, like a hidden blade. She knew exactly what was happening. Nathan's prejudice was the perfect bait, and she, like a strategist, let him reveal himself. It was the start of her play, the hook strategy she mastered: don't react, but draw them in, observe, and, at the right moment, expose. Angela Harper was no ordinary guest. As CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, a New York-based investment firm, she managed billions in assets and was known in financial circles for her ability to dismantle adversaries with nothing but facts and composure. But there, at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, overlooking Grant Park and Lake Michigan, she was just a black woman in the eyes of Nathan and the hotel staff. Her arrival at the hotel was no whim. Angela was in Chicago on a specific mission: to evaluate the ethical practices of the Le Méridien, following reports of racial discrimination against black guests and employees of African descent. The hotel, with its luxurious facade and reputation for impeccable hospitality, was under scrutiny, and Angela was the perfect person to conduct this discreet audit. She knew the check-in moment would be the first test, and Nathan, with his biting comment, was already failing miserably. As Nathan typed slowly on the computer, his fingers hesitating as if questioning the card's legitimacy, Angela observed every detail. The way he tilted his head, the slight furrow of his brow, the quick glance he exchanged with another employee, all were evidence of the system she had come to investigate. "I'll need to verify this with the manager," Nathan said, holding the card as if it were a foreign object. He hadn't asked to verify the cards of the previous guests, all white, whom Angela had discreetly observed while waiting her turn. The difference in treatment was glaring, but she said nothing. Instead, she adjusted her posture, crossed her arms elegantly, and let the silence speak for her. It was a powerful weapon, one she had learned to wield over years of facing boardrooms dominated by white men who underestimated her competence. Nathan, unaware, was falling into her trap. Every word, every gesture, was being mentally catalogued by Angela, who already envisioned how this moment would be the spark to expose something much larger. "You can verify with whoever you need," Angela replied, her voice calm but carrying an authoritative tone. Nathan seemed surprised, as if he had expected a more emotional reaction, something he could use to reinforce his biases. But Angela gave him no such satisfaction. She knew that reacting with anger would be playing his game, giving the hotel an excuse to label her as problematic. Instead, she let her composure be her weapon, a shield hiding the strength of a woman who had toppled financial empires with nothing but intelligence and patience. As Nathan stepped away to consult the manager, Angela slipped her phone from her pocket and, with a discreet motion, activated the audio recording. She didn't need much, just enough to document what she already knew: the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, behind its sophisticated facade, harbored a system that judged people by the color of their skin before anything else. When Nathan returned, he handed back the card with a forced smile. "Everything's in order, Miss Harper. Welcome to the Le Méridien." But the damage was done. Angela took the card, tucked it into her bag, and nodded, saying nothing more. She knew that moment at check-in was just the beginning. Nathan's comment, the suspicion in his eyes, the stifled laugh from his colleague, all were the tip of the iceberg, and Angela was determined to uncover what lay beneath. With a final glance at the receptionist, she walked toward the elevator, the sound of her heels echoing in the lobby as a reminder that she was not just a guest, but a force the Lumeridian would soon learn to respect. Angela Harper stepped out of the elevator on the 10th floor of the Lumeridian Essex Chicago, keycard in hand, Nathan Brooks' comments still echoing in her mind, "Let's hope this card isn't maxed out." The insult at the check-in counter might have set someone else ablaze, but not Angela. She knew true power didn't lie in shouting or confronting, it lay in silence, in the calm that disarms and reveals. As she walked down the carpeted hallway toward her room, with a view of Michigan Avenue's nighttime glow, she was already planning her next steps. Every gesture, every word of disdain she faced in that hotel would be another piece in the puzzle she was assembling with surgical precision. Angela hadn't come to Chicago just to stay, she was there to unmask a system, and her composure would be the weapon that would make the Lumeridian bow before its own arrogance. In her room, Angela placed her bag on the mahogany table and opened her laptop, but not before adjusting her phone to continue discreetly recording audio. As CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, she had learned that emotional control was not weakness but a sharp strategy, honed like a blade that cuts unseen. Nathan's comment at check-in was merely the first sign of what she suspected. The Lumeridian Essex Chicago, with its luxurious facade and promises of world-class hospitality, hid a pattern of discrimination that she was determined to expose. She knew that reacting with anger to Nathan's prejudice would have given him and the hotel a convenient narrative, that of a difficult or emotional guest. Instead, Angela chose silence, not as submission, but as a mirror that reflected their mistake back at them. She sat down, opened a notebook, and began recording every detail of the encounter in the lobby, Nathan's tone, his hesitation in processing her Centurion Black card, the stifled laugh from the colleague beside him. Each word was evidence, and Angela was meticulous. As she prepared for dinner at the hotel's restaurant, Angela chose a navy blue dress that conveyed authority without ostentation. She knew every interaction at the Lumeridian would be a test, and her composure would be her greatest ally. In the elevator, a white guest carrying a designer bag received a warm smile from the employee operating it. When Angela entered, the same employee barely looked up, offering only a stiff nod. She noticed but said nothing. Instead, she adjusted the silver bracelet on her wrist and let the silence speak. At the restaurant, the hostess hesitated before leading her to a table, offering one near the kitchen despite several tables with views of Grant Park being empty. "This is the best we have right now," the hostess said, avoiding Angela's gaze. A white couple who arrived shortly after was promptly seated at a table with a view. Angela smiled politely, accepted the offered table, and asked for the menu. Every discrimination, however small it seemed, was another line in the mental report she was building. Back in her room, Angela reviewed the phone recordings and made detailed notes. She knew the Lumeridian Essex Chicago was part of a hotel chain in negotiations with Pinnacle Equity Partners for a global expansion contract. What Nathan and the hotel staff didn't know was that Angela, with her unshakable calm, was collecting evidence that could determine the future of that partnership. Each discriminatory interaction was a nail in the coffin of the system she was there to expose. She didn't need to shout or confront, her presence, her composure, her ability to observe and document were enough. As she typed her observations, Angela felt the weight of her mission. It wasn't just about her, but about all the others who faced the same treatment at the Lumeridian and hotels like it. Her silence was not passivity, it was a force that, at the right moment, would make the world listen. In the lobby of the Lumeridian Essex Chicago, bathed in the soft glow of chandeliers and the distant reflection of Lake Michigan, Angela Harper remained an enigma, a black woman whose presence was noticed but not understood. The receptionist Nathan Brooks, with his biting comment about the Centurion Black card, and the hotel staff, with their furtive glances, saw only the surface, the color of her skin, the outline of her dress, the leather bag she carried. They had no idea who she was, and that was exactly what Angela wanted. Every snap judgment, every disguised whisper, was a crack in the hotel's facade of sophistication, and Angela, with her calm as sharp as a blade, was ready to pry those flaws wide open. She wasn't just a guest, she was Angela Harper, CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, a force that moved billions on Wall Street, and the ignorance of the Le Méridien staff would be the key to dismantling the system that underestimated her. Angela knew her identity was a trump card she kept close to her chest. When Nathan, with his rehearsed smile, returned her card after the unnecessary verification at check-in, he didn't see the woman who led one of New York's most powerful investment firms. He saw only a guest who, in his mind, didn't fit the profile of someone carrying a Centurion black card. As Angela walked through the lobby toward the elevator, she noticed the glances from other staff members, a doorman who hesitated before opening the door, a maid who lowered her eyes as she passed. Each interaction was a reminder that, to them, she was an outsider, defined not by her credentials but by ingrained prejudices. Angela, however, remained unshaken. Her mission at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, strategically located on Michigan Avenue with a view of Grant Park, was not just to stay but to test the ethical integrity of a hotel seeking an expansion contract with her firm. And she was determined to let the staff's ignorance become the rope with which they would hang themselves. At the lobby bar, where executives in expensive suits chatted animatedly, Angela ordered an herbal tea. The bartender, a middle-aged man with a badge reading, Stephen, took his time serving her, prioritizing other guests who arrived after her. When he finally brought the tea, he placed the cup with a brusque motion, without the care he showed a group of white men seated a few tables away. Angela noticed but said nothing. Instead, she picked up her phone and, disguising the movement as if checking a message, took a photo of the bartender as he served another customer with a warm smile he never offered her. Stephen's ignorance, like Nathan's, was palpable. He had no idea that the woman he treated with disregard was the same one who could decide the fate of a billion-dollar partnership with the Le Méridien. Angela smiled to herself, knowing that each misstep was a piece in the puzzle she was patiently assembling. Here is the translation of the provided text into English. Underscore 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 underscore. Later, while walking down the 10th floor hallway, Angela overheard a room service employee, a young woman named Emily, whisper to a colleague, "She doesn't look like the type to stay in an executive suite, does she?" The colleague laughed, thinking Angela hadn't heard. But Angela did, and her lips curved into an almost imperceptible smile. She entered her room, closed the door, and opened her notebook, where she recorded the time, place, and exact comment. Every word was evidence, and Angela was meticulous. As a CEO, she had learned that power doesn't lie in shouting your authority but in letting others reveal their flaws. The Le Méridien staff, blinded by the color of her skin, had no idea they were being evaluated by a woman who could crush their ambitions with a single phone call. They didn't know that Angela Harper was the force behind Pinnacle Equity Partners, a woman who turned meetings into victories and contracts into legacies. As she prepared for dinner, Angela chose an impeccable gray blazer and discreet pearl earrings. She knew every moment in the hotel was an opportunity to gather more evidence of the discrimination permeating the Le Méridien. In the elevator, a white executive greeted her with a polite nod, but the hotel employee operating the elevator ignored her completely, responding only to the other guests' questions. Angela mentally noted the employee's name tag, Michael, and the exact time. She didn't need them to know who she was, their ignorance was her greatest advantage. Every judgment based on her appearance, every hesitation in offering her the same treatment given to other guests, was a step toward the trap she was setting. Angela knew that, at the right moment, her identity would be revealed, but until then, she would let the Le Méridien staff dig their own grave, judging her by something as superficial as the color of her skin. In the silence of her room at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, with Chicago's skyline glowing beyond the window, Angela Harper closed her laptop with a click that sounded like a judge's gavel. She had spent the past few days collecting evidence: Nathan Brooks' biting comment at check-in, the disdainful glances from staff, their ignorance of her true identity as CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners. Every detail was recorded, every misstep documented. Now, seated at the mahogany table overlooking Grant Park, Angela held the fate of a $2.8 billion contract in her hands. The Le Méridien, with its luxurious facade and global ambitions, had no idea that the prejudice they displayed was about to cost them more than they could imagine. Angela didn't need to raise her voice. Her decision, silent and precise, would be an earthquake that would shake the hotel chain to its foundations. Angela knew from the start that her stay at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, strategically located on Michigan Avenue, was not just a business trip. As CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, she was evaluating the hotel chain for a partnership that would finance the Le Méridien's global expansion, a project promising to open 12 new hotels in international markets, from Dubai to Tokyo. The $2.8 billion contract was a golden opportunity for the chain, which sought to solidify its position as a leader in luxury hospitality. But Angela also knew of the allegations circulating: reports of racial discrimination against black guests and employees of African descent, stories that echoed in internal investor forums and whispers in Wall Street corridors. Her mission was clear: to test the Le Méridien's ethics firsthand. What she encountered at check-in, with Nathan's comment about her Centurion Black card being probably maxed out, and in subsequent interactions, with staff judging her by the color of her skin, confirmed her suspicions. The Le Méridien was unworthy of Pinnacle's investment, and Angela was ready to act. The morning after her arrival, Angela joined a teleconference with her team in New York. Sitting in her room, with Lake Michigan reflecting the rising sun in the background, she reviewed the contract terms with the Le Méridien. Her financial directors, confident in the deal's viability, asked if she had found anything warranting a review. Angela, with a calm but firm voice, replied, "We've encountered an ethical issue. I'm sending a detailed report tonight." She opened the notebook where she had recorded every discriminatory interaction: Nathan's tone, the bartender Stephen's hesitation, Emily's comment about her not looking the type for an executive suite. Each incident was evidence, and Angela, with her characteristic precision, turned these notes into a dossier sent to Pinnacle's board. The report was devastating, not just for the facts but for the clarity with which it exposed a pattern of behavior that made the Le Méridien an unacceptable risk to Pinnacle's reputation. That afternoon, Angela scheduled a meeting with the general manager of the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, a man named Richard Coleman, who received her in a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. Richard, unaware of the situation's gravity, began the meeting with a rehearsed speech about the Le Méridien's commitment to diversity. Angela listened in silence, her hands clasped on the table, the same serene smile that had disarmed Nathan at check-in. When Richard finished, she slid a single sheet of paper across the table, a formal statement from Pinnacle Equity Partners. "I'm sorry, Mr. Coleman," she said, her voice firm but emotionless. "Due to the discriminatory practices observed at this hotel, Pinnacle is canceling the $2.8 billion investment contract. You'll receive the full documentation shortly." Richard paled, his hands trembling as he read the statement. He tried to argue, citing numbers, projections, the project's importance to the chain. But Angela remained impassive, her composure a reminder that she didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. Here is the translation of the provided text into English. The impact of Angela's decision was immediate. Without Pinnacle's funding, the Le Méridien's global expansion plan was halted, with the 12 new hotels postponed indefinitely. In New York, the news spread quickly among investors, and rumors of ethical issues at the Le Méridien began to circulate. Angela, meanwhile, returned to her room and continued her stay, knowing that the contract cancellation was just the beginning. She had planted the seed for a larger change, one that would force the hotel chain to face the consequences of its actions. As she looked out the window, watching Chicago's skyscrapers light up against the night sky, Angela felt the weight of her decision. She didn't need spotlights or dramatic confrontations. Her power lay in precision, in calm, and in the certainty that the Le Méridien would pay a steep price for underestimating her. Angela Harper crossed the lobby of the Le Méridien Essex Chicago with the precision of a hunter who knows their prey. Every step, every glance, was part of a larger plan, a chessboard where she moved the pieces with patience and cunning. Nathan Brooks' biting comment at check-in, the staff's ignorance of her identity as CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, and the cancellation of the $2.8 billion contract were just the beginning. Angela wasn't there by chance. She had come with a purpose, to confirm the allegations of racial discrimination hovering over the hotel, reports that had reached Pinnacle through employees, guests, and internal investor forums. Under the glow of crystal chandeliers, with the shimmer of Lake Michigan in the background, Angela was an invisible observer, and every misstep by the Le Méridien was evidence she stored as ammunition to dismantle a flawed system. Angela had planned her visit to the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, located on vibrant Michigan Avenue, with the meticulousness of a strategist. As CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, she knew the hotel chain, with its reputation for luxury and global ambitions, was under scrutiny. Allegations of discrimination against black guests and employees of African descent had surfaced in confidential reports, and Angela, known for her ability to assess risks with surgical precision, decided to investigate the claims personally. Before even arriving in Chicago, she had studied the hotel's patterns. Guest reviews on platforms like TripAdvisor mentioned unequal treatment, and former employees, in private online groups, reported promotions denied to African colleagues. Angela arrived at the Le Méridien with a clear objective: observe, document, and, if necessary, act. Nathan's comment at check-in, suggesting her Centurion Black card was probably maxed out, was just the first confirmation that the allegations had merit. In the days that followed, Angela turned her stay into an intelligence mission. She moved through the hotel like a shadow, always alert, always noting. At breakfast, served in the restaurant overlooking Grant Park, she observed how waiters attended white guests with warm smiles and detailed recommendations, while she received curt responses and evasive glances. One morning, when she requested a window seat, the hostess hesitated, claiming the tables were reserved, though Angela could see several empty ones. She accepted the table offered near the kitchen entrance and, while sipping her coffee, discreetly took a photo of the hostess seating a white couple at a window table moments later. At the hotel spa, Angela was told there were no openings for massages, despite seeing a white guest accommodated without a reservation minutes earlier. She noted the employee's name, Carla, and the exact time, adding the incident to her growing list of evidence. Angela also paid attention to the hotel's employees, especially those of African descent. During a casual conversation with a doorman named Kwame, she noticed the hesitation in his voice when she asked about promotion opportunities. "It's hard to move up here," he said, lowering his gaze. Angela didn't press but recorded the comment, knowing it corroborated allegations from former employees who described an environment where Africans were relegated to low-visibility roles. On another occasion, while waiting at the lobby bar, she overheard two supervisors discussing shift assignments, with one suggesting that certain employees shouldn't work in high-contact areas with VIP guests. Angela, with her phone strategically positioned, recorded the audio, capturing every word. Her composure, which had disarmed Nathan at check-in and impressed the manager Richard Coleman when she canceled the contract, was now her observation tool, allowing her to blend into the environment without raising suspicion. Each interaction was a piece in the puzzle Angela patiently assembled. She knew the Le Méridien Essex Chicago was not just a hotel but part of a chain seeking to expand its global influence. The allegations of discrimination, if confirmed, would not only justify the cancellation of the $2.8 billion contract but also expose a systemic issue that could tarnish the entire chain's reputation. Angela didn't need to confront the staff directly. Her presence, her calm, and her ability to document every detail were enough. At the end of her stay, while reviewing her notes in her room, Angela felt the weight of her mission. She had confirmed what she feared: the Le Méridien, behind its sophisticated facade, perpetuated a system that judged guests and employees by the color of their skin. With a final glance at the city of Chicago, she closed her notebook, knowing her evidence would be the spark for a much larger change. In the dim light of her room at the Le Méridien, Essex, Chicago, Angela Harper reviewed a gallery of photos and audio files on her phone, each file a fragment of truth she collected with the precision of a jeweler shaping a precious stone. Nathan Brooks' comment at check-in, the disdainful glances, the ignorance of her identity as CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, and the cancellation of the $2.8 billion contract were just the beginning. Angela was there with a greater purpose, to build an irrefutable dossier of racial discrimination that would unmask the hotel's facade of sophistication. Every photo, every video, every recording was a weapon, and she, with her strategic calm, was the only one who knew the impact those pieces of evidence would have. The Le Méridien, with its bright lights and promises of luxury, was about to be exposed by a woman who turned silence into power. Angela had arrived at the Le Méridien, Essex, Chicago, on vibrant Michigan Avenue, with a clear plan, to observe and document the allegations of discrimination that had reached Pinnacle Equity Partners. As CEO, she knew the hotel, with its view of Grant Park and Lake Michigan, was more than a place to stay, it was a symbol of the hotel chain seeking a billion-dollar partnership with her firm. But reports of unequal treatment toward black guests and African employees demanded a personal investigation, and Angela was determined to gather concrete evidence. From the moment Nathan, the receptionist, insinuated that her Centurion Black card was probably maxed out, she activated her phone, setting it to record audio discreetly while maintaining the composure that disarmed her opponents. Every interaction in the hotel was an opportunity, and Angela, with the cunning of someone who had navigated hostile boardrooms, knew exactly how to capture the truth without raising suspicion. On the second day, Angela attempted to access the hotel's VIP area, an exclusive lounge with leather sofas and panoramic city views. When she presented her keycard, the employee at the entrance, a man named Brian, examined it with suspicion. "Sorry, but this area is reserved for platinum members," he said, though Angela's card clearly indicated her executive guest status. She noticed a white couple being admitted without question minutes earlier. Without saying a word, Angela took out her phone, pretending to adjust her bag, and snapped a photo of Brian as he denied her entry. Later, at the hotel restaurant, she faced another barrier. When she requested a table with a view of Grant Park, the hostess, a woman named Lauren, hesitated and led her to a cramped table near the kitchen, claiming the better ones were reserved. Angela observed a group of white guests being promptly seated at tables with views, and, with a subtle movement, recorded a 20-second video showing the hostess directing them while she remained at the inferior table. The video captured not only the scene but also Lauren's cold tone when answering Angela's questions about the menu. The hotel gym was another stage for discrimination. On the morning of the third day, Angela tried to access the facility, equipped with state-of-the-art treadmills and a view of Michigan Avenue. The attendant, a young man named Marcus, informed her that the gym was under maintenance and suggested she return later. However, Angela saw a white guest enter without issue minutes later. She lingered at the entrance, pretending to check messages on her phone, and recorded an audio of Marcus explaining to another employee that some guests shouldn't use the gym during peak hours to maintain the premium experience. The comment, laden with subtext, was captured clearly. Angela returned to her room and transferred the audio to her laptop, organizing it in a folder labeled Le Méridien Evidence. Each file was tagged with date, time, and context: May 3, 2025, 8:47, gym access denied, May 3, 2025, 1922, hostess prioritizes white guests, May 2, 2025, 15:30, VIP lounge access denied. Angela also documented interactions with employees of African descent, who seemed relegated to less visible roles. During a casual conversation with a maid named Aisha, she noticed the employee's hesitation when discussing her job. "They don't let us interact much with important guests," Aisha said, glancing around before continuing. Angela recorded the conversation with her phone hidden in her bag, capturing the maid's hushed voice and resigned tone. Each piece of evidence was a tile in the mosaic Angela was building, a portrait of a hotel that, behind its luxurious facade, perpetuated a system of exclusion. By the end of her stay, she had a collection of over 30 files, photos, videos up to 40 seconds long, audio recordings of revealing conversations, all organized in a folder sent to Pinnacle Equity Partners Board. As she looked out her room's window, watching Chicago's skyscrapers glow under the night sky, Angela knew her evidence was more than proof. It was the start of a change the Le Méridien could not ignore. On the final day of her stay at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, Angela Harper crossed the lobby with the same calm that had disarmed glances and comments since her arrival. The glow of crystal chandeliers and the distant view of Lake Michigan were merely a backdrop for what was to come. Over 4 days, she had collected evidence. Nathan Brooks' comment implying her Centurion Black card was maxed out, the denials of access to the VIP lounge and gym, the disdainful looks that followed her like shadows. She had cancelled a $2.8 billion contract with the hotel chain, but there was still one final move to make. Angela, with a business card in hand, walked toward the reception desk, where Nathan was on duty, oblivious to the weight of the truth he was about to face. She didn't need to shout, her presence and a single revelation would be enough to shake the Le Méridien to its core. Angela had planned every detail of her stay at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, located on bustling Michigan Avenue, with the precision of a strategist. As CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, a firm that moved billions on Wall Street, she had come to confirm allegations of racial discrimination against black guests and employees of African descent. During her stay, she documented everything: photos of staff prioritizing white guests, videos of access denials, audio recordings of comments like the one from a maid revealing the systematic exclusion of African employees. Every interaction, from the check-in with Nathan to the hesitations at the restaurant and gym, reinforced her certainty that the hotel perpetuated a flawed system. The cancellation of the contract with the hotel chain was her first response, but Angela knew that directly exposing the Le Méridien's failings required a final confrontation, a moment when the staff's ignorance would be confronted with the truth of her identity. Here is the translation of the provided text into English. Underscore 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 underscore. On the morning of her final day, Angela descended to the lobby with a black leather bag and a navy blazer that exuded authority. The lobby was bustling, with guests dragging suitcases and staff rushing to fulfill requests. Nathan was behind the reception desk, organizing papers with the same rehearsed smile he had used on the first day. Angela approached, the sound of her heels echoing on the polished marble, and placed her room key on the counter. "I'd like to check out," she said, her voice firm but calm. Nathan, without looking up, began processing the request, his indifferent demeanor an echo of the disdain he had shown when insinuating her card wasn't valid. Angela waited, letting the silence settle like a physical presence. When Nathan finally looked at her, expecting the credit card, Angela slid a business card across the counter, the Pinnacle Equity Partners logo gleaming in gold embossing. "Before we finalize, Nathan," Angela said, pronouncing his name with a clarity that made him freeze, "I'd like you to know who I am." She pointed to the card, where her name, Angela Harper, appeared alongside the title, CEO, Pinnacle Equity Partners. Nathan's face paled, his eyes darting between the card and Angela's piercing gaze. "During my stay, I was judged by the color of my skin, starting with your comment about my card at check-in. I was denied access to VIP areas, the restaurant, and the gym, while other guests received preferential treatment. These discriminatory practices not only cost the Le Méridien a $2.8 billion contract but also exposed a system that needs to change." Her voice was calm, each word chosen with precision, but the impact was like thunder. Nathan stammered, trying to form an excuse, but Angela raised her hand, silencing him. "It's not me you owe explanations to. It's your hotel, your colleagues, and the guests who face the same treatment." The lobby, once noisy, seemed to have stopped. Other employees ceased typing, nearby guests turned their heads, and the manager, Richard Coleman, who had been observing from a distance, began to approach, visibly alarmed. Angela continued, handing Nathan a printed copy of her evidence report, a detailed list of incidents, complete with dates, times, and descriptions. You had the chance to do the right thing, but you chose prejudice. I hope this is a lesson. She picked up her bag, gave Nathan one last look, now speechless, and walked toward the exit. The business card remained on the counter, a silent reminder of the power of a woman who didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. As she passed through the revolving doors of the Le Méridien, with Michigan Avenue buzzing around her, Angela knew that confrontation was just the beginning of a wave that would force the hotel to face its failures. When Angela Harper left the lobby of the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, with the Pinnacle Equity Partners business card still on the counter and receptionist Nathan Brooks stunned, she didn't imagine that a guest, standing a few meters away, had captured the confrontation in a 43-second video. The clip, recorded discreetly with a phone, showed Angela revealing her identity as CEO and exposing the hotel's discriminatory practices with a calm that cut like a blade. As she passed through the revolving doors, with Michigan Avenue vibrating around her, the video was already being uploaded online, poised to unleash a storm that would shake the Le Méridien and resonate worldwide. Angela, with her composure and precision, had planted the seed in that confrontation, but now, on social media, that seed was about to blossom into a wave of outrage that no one at the hotel could contain. Angela had spent 4 days at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago, documenting every discriminatory interaction with the meticulousness of a strategist. From Nathan's comment at check-in, implying her Centurion Black card was probably maxed out, to the denials of access to the VIP lounge, restaurant, and gym, she had collected photos, videos, and audio recordings that confirmed allegations of racial discrimination against black guests and African employees. As CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, she had canceled a $2.8 billion contract with the hotel chain, but the final confrontation with Nathan, where she revealed her identity and delivered a report detailing the hotel's failures, was the climax of her mission. What Angela didn't know was that a guest, a young lawyer named Marcus Tate, was in the lobby during the confrontation, waiting to check out. Impressed by Angela's calm and authority, he recorded the moment she handed over the business card and exposed the Le Méridien's practices, capturing every word with crystal clarity. Marcus posted the video on X at 2:11 p.m. on May 14, 2025, with the caption, "This happened today at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago. A black CEO faced discrimination and called out the hotel. Hashtag Angela Harper hashtag Le Méridien exposed." The 43-second clip showed Angela, impeccable in her navy blazer, confronting Nathan with a firm but emotionless voice. "You judged me by the color of my skin, and it cost your hotel a $2.8 billion contract." The video ended with Nathan, visibly shaken, holding the business card as Angela exited the lobby. Within hours, the post amassed thousands of views, boosted by retweets from influencers, journalists, and activists. By 6 p.m., the video had 1.2 million views, and the hashtags hashtag Angela Harper and hashtag Le Méridien exposed began dominating X's trending topics, with users sharing their own stories of discrimination at luxury hotels. Public outrage grew like an avalanche. On X, comments like, "The Le Méridien thinks they can treat people like this and keep their reputation," and "Angela Harper is a legend for exposing this with such class," flooded the platform. One user posted, "I was a guest at the Le Méridien in 2024 and got the same treatment. Thank you, Angela, for speaking for us. Hashtag Le Méridien exposed." Others shared screenshots of the hotel's website, questioning its publicly stated inclusion policies. By midnight, the video had reached 5 million views, and the hashtag Angela Harper was mentioned in over 300,000 posts. Civil rights organizations, like the NAACP, reposted the video, demanding a response from the hotel chain. Outlets like the Chicago Tribune and the New York Times began covering the story, with headlines such as, "Black CEO exposes discrimination at luxury hotel," and "Viral video rocks Le Méridien Essex Chicago." The pressure on social media was relentless, with boycotts being organized and guests canceling reservations at the chain's hotels. Meanwhile, Angela, now back in New York, followed the video's impact from afar. She hadn't planned for it to go viral, but her strategy of confronting Nathan with facts and composure had created the perfect moment to expose the low meridian. In the Pinnacle Equity Partners office, she received messages from colleagues and allies congratulating her courage, but Angela remained focused, reviewing the evidence she had collected during her stay. The video, though powerful, was only a fraction of the dossier she had sent to Pinnacle's board, detailing every discriminatory incident at the low meridian. As the internet buzzed with outrage, Angela knew the real change would come not just from public outcry but from the actions she had already taken, the contract cancellation and the delivery of the report. Looking out her office window, with Manhattan skyscrapers in the background, she felt the weight of her mission. The low meridian Essex Chicago, and the entire chain, was learning that underestimating Angela Harper came at a cost far beyond a viral video. The 43-second video of Angela Harper confronting Nathan Brooks at the low meridian Essex Chicago's reception desk still reverberated across social media, with millions of views and hashtags like #AngelaHarper and #LowMeridianExposed dominating X. But while the internet seethed with indignation, the real storm was just beginning for Marriott International, the hotel giant that operated the low meridian. Angela, with her sharp composure and a business card revealing her identity as CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, had ignited a spark that now consumed the chain's reputation like an uncontrolled wildfire. What started with a racist comment at check-in and culminated in the cancellation of a $2.8 billion contract was about to topple partnerships, evaporate billions in market value, and turn the low meridian Essex Chicago into a symbol of everything a luxury brand should not be. The wave of outrage sparked by the video, posted on X on May 14, 2025, didn't stay confined to social media. As Angela returned to her New York office, reviewing the dossier of evidence documenting the low meridian's discriminatory practices, from Nathan's comment implying her Centurion Black card was maxed out, to the denials of access to the VIP lounge, restaurant, and gym, Marriott International faced an unprecedented crisis. The morning after the video went viral, the #LowMeridianExposed reached 500,000 mentions, and the Chicago Tribune published a front-page story, "Discrimination at Low Meridian Essex Chicago, Black CEO Exposes Systemic Failures." The article detailed Angela's confrontation with Nathan and mentioned the cancellation of the Pinnacle Equity Partners contract, sending shockwaves through the hospitality industry. By 10 a.m., Marriott International's NASDAQ-listed shares began to plummet, dropping 8% before noon. Financial analysts on platforms like Bloomberg Terminal began predicting a lasting impact, citing eroded investor and customer confidence. The consequences multiplied rapidly. Pinnacle Equity Partners wasn't the only one to pull back. Two major tech companies with contracts for corporate events at the low meridian Essex Chicago canceled their bookings for annual conferences, citing ethical concerns, in public statements. One, a San Francisco-based software giant, issued a statement on X: "We cannot support a chain that tolerates discrimination. Our events will be relocated." #LowMeridianExposed. Other hotel chains, fearing a domino effect, began reviewing their own policies, while Marriott faced a flood of individual reservation cancellations. Guests, inspired by Angela's video, shared their own experiences of unequal treatment at the chain's hotels, amplifying the crisis. A group of activists in Chicago organized a peaceful protest outside the low meridian Essex Chicago on Michigan Avenue, holding signs with phrases like "Justice for Angela" and "End Racism in Luxury." The image of the protesters, with Grant Park in the background, was captured by drones and live-streamed on X, garnering another 2 million views. In the financial markets, the impact was devastating. By the close of trading on May 15, 2025, Marriott International's shares had fallen 26%, a loss of billions in market value. Goldman Sachs analysts published a report warning that the reputational crisis could cost the company strategic partnerships and government contracts, especially in international markets where diversity was a stated priority. The chain attempted to respond with an official statement, promising a thorough internal investigation and racial sensitivity training, but the response was met with skepticism. Ex-users pointed out that the statement seemed generic, with one viral post stating, "Marriott thinks an empty apology will erase what Angela Harper exposed." #LoMeridian exposed. Meanwhile, Marriott's board held an emergency meeting, with reports indicating that the company's CEO demanded a complete review of the LoMeridian Essex Chicago's operations. The general manager, Richard Coleman, was suspended, and Nathan Brooks, the receptionist, was placed on leave pending the investigation. Angela, in New York, watched the brand's collapse from a distance. She hadn't sought the video's viral spread, but her decision to confront Nathan with facts and reveal her identity had sparked a movement beyond her initial intentions. In the Pinnacle Equity Partners office, with Manhattan's skyline gleaming in the background, she received calls from allies and journalists requesting comments but chose silence, letting her actions speak. The dossier she had sent to Pinnacle's board, with photos, videos, and audio of the LoMeridian's discriminatory practices, was already in the hands of legal consultants preparing a report for shareholders. As Marriott struggled to contain the crisis, Angela knew the brand's collapse was more than a financial loss. It was a wake-up call for the hospitality industry, proof that underestimating a woman like her had consequences that would echo far beyond Michigan Avenue. The 43-second video of Angela Harper confronting Nathan Brooks at the LoMeridian Essex Chicago still reverberated like thunder across social media, with hashtags like #AngelaHarper and #LoMeridian exposed echoing in millions of posts on X. The 26% drop in Marriott International's market value, the suspension of corporate events, and the cancellation of partnerships were just the beginning. Angela, with her sharp composure and a dossier of evidence exposing the hotel's discriminatory practices, had ignited a spark that was now turning into a global wildfire, forcing the hospitality industry to confront its ethical failures. As she gazed at New York's skyline from her office at Pinnacle Equity Partners, the impact of her actions began to reshape the policies of over 40 hotel chains worldwide, proving that a single woman, armed with precision and truth, could transform an entire system. The incident at the LoMeridian Essex Chicago, located on vibrant Michigan Avenue with views of Grant Park, became a landmark for the hospitality industry. Angela, as CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, had arrived at the hotel to confirm allegations of racial discrimination against black guests and African employees, and her experience, from Nathan's comment implying her Centurion Black Card was maxed out, to the denials of access to the VIP lounge, restaurant, and gym, culminated in the cancellation of a $2.8 billion contract and a confrontation that went viral. The video of the confrontation, captured by a guest and posted on X on May 14, 2025, unleashed a wave of outrage that forced Marriott International to face the consequences of its practices. But Angela's impact extended beyond Michigan Avenue. As the crisis spread, other hotel chains, fearing a similar fate, began reassessing their own policies, realizing that tolerating racial bias was no longer just a moral failing but an existential threat to their brands. In the days following Marriott's collapse, public and media pressure triggered a chain reaction. Hilton, a direct competitor, announced on May 20, 2025, a global, blind hiring program for managerial roles designed to eliminate unconscious bias in recruitment processes. The initiative, widely publicized on X and in press releases, was directly inspired by the LoMeridian case, with Hilton citing the need to learn from recent industry incidents. The Intercontinental Hotels Group, IHG, followed suit, implementing mandatory unconscious bias training for all 400,000 of its global employees, led by diversity and inclusion experts. On X, users celebrated the changes, with posts like, "The #Angela Harper case is forcing hotels to look in the mirror," finally, garnering thousands of likes. By the end of May, over 40 hotel chains, including Accor, Hyatt, and Four Seasons, announced ethical reviews, with policies that included independent audits of customer service and internal promotion practices, as well as anonymous channels for reporting discrimination. The impact also reached industry organizations. The American Hotel and Lodging Association, AHLA, representing thousands of U.S. hotels, launched a coalition called Inclusive Hospitality in June 2025, aimed at standardizing ethical practices across the industry. The program, inspired by Angela's report and the viral video, required members to adopt regular training and transparent diversity reporting. At industry conferences, such as the Global Lodging Forum in Paris, the Le Méridien Essex Chicago case was cited as a turning point, with executives debating how to avoid another Harper case. Marriott, still recovering from the crisis, announced a complete overhaul of its policies, including hiring an external team of consultants to review practices across its 8,000 hotels. On X, the hashtag Le Méridien Exposed continued to trend, now joined by hashtag Hospitality Reform, which amassed 200,000 mentions in 2 weeks, with users demanding that the changes be permanent. Angela, in New York, followed the news from a distance, maintaining the silence that had always been her strength. She declined interviews with the New York Times and CNN, letting her actions, the dossier of evidence, the contract cancellation, and the confrontation with Nathan, speak for themselves. At Pinnacle Equity Partners' office, she received reports from her legal consultants monitoring changes in the hospitality industry. One noted that Angela's impact was being compared to historic civil rights movements, with a Forbes article calling her the catalyst for a new era in hospitality. As she read the article, Angela looked out her window, watching Manhattan skyscrapers gleam in the sunlight. She knew that the systemic changes, though inspired by her fight, were just the beginning. The hospitality industry, forced to reform, was learning a lesson Angela had always known: justice, when built with precision and truth, has the power to transform the world. As Angela Harper gazed at New York's skyline from her office at Pinnacle Equity Partners, with the Hudson River shimmering in the distance, the impact of her stay at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago continued to reverberate worldwide. The confrontation with Nathan Brooks, the viral video exposing the hotel's discrimination, and the collapse of the Marriott International brand had triggered a wave of ethical reforms across over 40 global hotel chains. But Angela's true legacy was just beginning to take shape. What started with a racist comment at check-in on Michigan Avenue was evolving into the Harper Standard, an ethical benchmark that would redefine the hospitality industry and echo in classrooms from Harvard to Oxford as a case study on how one woman, with composure and truth, could change an entire system. The incident at the Le Méridien Essex Chicago in May 2025 was not just a crisis for Marriott International. Angela, as CEO of Pinnacle Equity Partners, had arrived at the hotel to investigate allegations of racial discrimination, facing everything from Nathan's comment implying her Centurion Black card was maxed out, to denials of access to the VIP lounge, restaurant, and gym. Her evidence, collected with precision, photos, videos, audio recordings, and the cancellation of a $2.8 billion contract culminated in a confrontation that, captured in a 43-second video, went viral with hashtags like hashtag Angela Harper and hashtag Le Méridien Exposed. The 26% drop in Marriott's market value and the cancellation of corporate events forced the industry to act, with chains like Hilton and IHG adopting blind hiring and unconscious bias training. But Angela's impact went beyond immediate reforms. Her story, marked by strategic calm and a commitment to justice, began to be recognized as a benchmark of ethical excellence, dubbed the Harper Standard by industry analysts. In the months that followed, the Harper Standard became a reference for ethical audits in the hospitality industry. The American Hotel and Lodging Association, AHLA, inspired by the case, launched a certification program in July 2025, requiring member hotels to conduct independent audits to assess customer service and employee promotion practices. Over 50 chains, including Accor, Hyatt, and Four Seasons, joined the program, hiring consultancies like Deloitte to implement regular reviews. The Harper Standard demanded full transparency, public diversity reports, anonymous reporting channels, and zero-tolerance policies for discrimination. On X, the hashtag Harper Standard gained traction, with posts like, "The hospitality industry will never be the same. Thank you, Angela." Hashtag Harper Standard amassing thousands of likes. Companies outside the hospitality sector, such as retail and tech firms, began adopting similar practices, citing Angela's case as inspiration for reviewing their own corporate cultures. The academic impact of the Harper Standard was equally profound. In September 2025, Harvard Business School included the Lou Meridian Essex Chicago case in its MBA curriculum as a case study on crisis management and corporate ethics. Titled Angela Harper and the Lou Meridian Crisis, the study detailed how a single woman, using composure and evidence, exposed systemic failures and catalyzed global change. Professors highlighted Angela's strategy, from her silent observation to her confrontation with Nathan, as an example of ethical leadership. Other institutions, such as the Wharton School and the London Business School, followed suit, incorporating the case into courses on management and diversity. Students debated how Angela turned a personal incident into a movement, with a Wharton professor commenting in a lecture, "The Harper Standard shows that ethics is not just a policy but a strategic weapon." On X, students shared excerpts from the study, with posts like, "Studying the Angela Harper case in class today. What a lesson in power and dignity. Hashtag Harper Standard." Angela, true to her nature, remained distant from the spotlight. In New York, she declined interviews and conference invitations, letting her actions speak. At Pinnacle Equity Partners' office, she reviewed reports from her consultants monitoring changes in the hospitality industry. One reported that Marriott International, still recovering from the crisis, had implemented the Harper Standard across its 8,000 hotels, with quarterly audits and a diversity council led by external experts. As she looked out her window, with Manhattan skyscrapers glowing under the autumn sky, Angela felt the weight of her legacy. The Harper Standard was not just about the Lou Meridian or Marriott, it was proof that justice, when built with precision and courage, could rewrite the rules of an entire industry, leaving an impact that would echo for generations. While the world celebrated Angela Harper as the architect of the Harper Standard, a movement that reshaped the hospitality industry and inspired global ethical audits, she remained silent, an almost mythical figure who refused to take center stage. The 43-second video of her confrontation with Nathan Brooks at the Lou Meridian Essex Chicago, which went viral with hashtags #Angela Harper and #Lou Meridian Exposed, still resonated on X, and the 26% collapse in Marriott International's market value was news in every paper. But Angela, seated in her office at Pinnacle Equity Partners with New York skyline glowing at dusk, chose to let her actions speak louder than any interview. Every piece of evidence she collected, every word she spoke in the confrontation, every decision she made, from canceling a $2.8 billion contract to creating an ethical legacy, was her voice, and she knew that justice, when forged with dignity and precision, needed no spotlight to change the world. Angela had arrived at the Lou Meridian Essex Chicago, on bustling Michigan Avenue, with a clear purpose, to confirm allegations of racial discrimination that had reached Pinnacle Equity Partners. From Nathan's comment at check-in, implying her Centurion Black card was maxed out, to the denials of access to the VIP lounge, restaurant, and gym, she documented everything with photos, videos, and audio, turning each of the hotel's missteps into irrefutable evidence. Her composure disarmed the staff, her identity as CEO remained hidden until the final confrontation, and the video of that moment, captured by a guest, sparked a wave of outrage that forced over 40 hotel chains to adopt blind hiring and unconscious bias training. The Harper Standard was now taught in business schools like Harvard and Wharton as a case study on ethics and crisis management. But while the world clamored for her voice, Angela remained silent, declining invitations to TV shows, interviews with CNN, and even a Forbes cover. For her, the T. In New York, at the end of June 2025, Angela received a handwritten letter from a former employee of the Lou Meridian Essex Chicago named Aisha, the maid she had met during her stay. Aisha wrote, "You don't know how much your courage changed my life. After your video, the hotel promoted 2 African employees for the first time in years. I'm now a supervisor. Thank you for giving us a voice." Angela read the letter alone in her office, with the setting sun painting the Hudson orange. Her eyes welled up, but she didn't let the tears fall. Instead, she tucked the letter into a drawer, next to the dossier that had exposed the Lou Meridian. That letter was more valuable than any headline, a reminder that her fight was not about fame but about impact. On X, users continued to share stories inspired by Angela, with posts like, "She faced a giant with silence and won." Hashtag Harper Standard amassing thousands of likes. Even civil rights organizations like the NAACP sent messages of support, but Angela responded only with brief thanks, staying true to her belief that justice speaks for itself. As the hospitality industry reformed, with Marriott implementing quarterly audits and other chains adopting the Harper Standard, Angela turned her focus to new projects at Pinnacle Equity Partners. In a meeting with her board, she proposed an investment fund to support minority-led businesses, inspired by the stories she had read on social media. Her colleagues urged her to speak publicly, to use her influence as a beacon, but Angela declined with a serene smile. "The evidence we collected, the contract we cancelled, the changes we forced, that's my voice," she said, her voice firm yet soft. Outside the office, the world continued to celebrate her name, but Angela preferred to walk Manhattan streets at dusk, anonymous among the crowd, knowing that every step she took at the Le Méridien had changed lives. That evening, as New York's sky transformed into a mosaic of purple and gold, Angela paused in a quiet plaza near Central Park. She looked at the horizon, where skyscrapers seemed to touch the stars, and thought of Aisha, Kwame the doorman, and all the others who now had a chance because she chose to fight with dignity. A gentle breeze blew, carrying the distant sound of the city, and Angela closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her legacy. The Harper Standard was not just an ethical benchmark, it was a promise that justice, when built with precision, could echo like a hymn, inspiring generations. She needed no spotlight, for her truth shone brighter than any light, a truth that, like New York's horizon, was vast, eternal, and impossible to ignore. And in that moment, with the world transformed by her actions, Angela Harper smiled, knowing that silence had been her greatest strength, a cry that would change the world forever.